Listen to me. Listen to me very carefully. If you are hearing this broadcast across the vast, unimaginably cold gulf of interstellar space, it means two things. First, my quantum entanglement array has actually survived the crossing. And second, I am already dead. Or rather, I am currently dying. I have already died, and I will be dying forever. Time has entirely lost its meaning. You've looked up at the night sky. You've seen the empty spaces between the stars. You think you know what darkness is. You don't. You know the absence of light, but you do not know the death of light. You do not know the place where reality itself folds inward and ceases to be. My name is Commander Elias Vance. I am, or was, the pilot of the Icarus Vanguard, and I am currently falling into Erebus, the rogue supermassive black hole drifting through the Orion Cygnus arm of our galaxy. The astronomers on Earth call it an anomaly, a singularity, a mathematical breakdown. I call it the end of all things. Let me tell you exactly what happens when you cross the point of no return. Let me tell you what it feels like to be swallowed by a god. It didn't happen suddenly. That's the first lie they tell you in the orbital academies. You don't just slip into a black hole like a ship falling off the edge of a flat Earth. It's a slow, agonizing, hypnotic seduction. For the last 3 weeks, the Icarus has been decelerating through the outer edges of the accretion disk. Imagine a hurricane of fire, billions of miles wide, spinning at nearly the speed of light. That is the disk. It is a cosmic graveyard. It is made of stars that wandered too close, planets torn from their orbits, moons crushed to dust, rogue asteroids, all being ground down into glowing, superheated plasma. Through the reinforced viewport of my cockpit, the universe was no longer black. It was a blinding, violent, terrifying violet. The sheer friction of the matter spinning around the black hole generates X-rays so intense that without the ship's magnetic shielding, my flesh would have melted off my bones before I even got within 1,000,000 miles of the center. Warning! The voice of my ship's AI, Aura, echoed in the cabin. Structural integrity at 72%. Gravitational shear increasing. Radiation levels exceeding nominal parameters by 4,000%. "Hold the shields, Aura," I whispered, my hands gripping the command console so hard my knuckles were stark white. "Reroute life support reserves to the forward deflectors. Just get me to the horizon." As we pushed deeper through the disk, the physical toll began, not just on the ship's titanium carbon hull, but on the very fabric of reality. This is where Einstein's nightmares become tangible. Time dilation. Gravity doesn't just pull matter, it pulls time. Space and time are not two separate things. They are a single interwoven fabric, and when you place a mass of 10 billion suns into one spot, it drags that fabric down into a bottomless well. The deeper you go down that well, the slower time moves for you compared to the rest of the universe. I looked at the aft monitors, the high-resolution cameras pointing backward, out toward the Milky Way I was leaving behind forever. The stars were changing. They were moving. Because my local time was slowing down to a crawl, the universe outside was speeding up relative to me. I watched millennia pass in the blink of an eye. I saw nearby stars flare into bloated red giants, and violently collapse into white dwarfs. I watched nebulas bloom in vibrant clouds of gas, and then fade away like fireworks captured in slow motion. I watched the slow, majestic rotation of the galactic arm accelerate until it looked like a spinning pinwheel. If anyone back on Earth was somehow watching me through a sufficiently powerful telescope right now, they wouldn't see me moving. To them, my ship would appear frozen in place, hovering right on the edge of the darkness. As the light from my ship struggled to climb out of the gravity well, it would lose energy, stretching into longer and longer wavelengths. To Earth, my ship would slowly turn red, then infrared, then fade into a faint microwave hum, taking centuries to finally vanish. To them, I am a ghost, an immortal statue frozen on the precipice. But in here I am falling at an unimaginable speed. We entered the ergosphere. This is a region just outside the black hole where the rotation of the singularity is so violent that it literally drags the fabric of space-time around with it. It's called frame dragging. Imagine the universe is an ocean, and the black hole is a massive whirlpool. Even if you swim as hard as you can against the current, the water itself is moving. Space itself was moving faster than light. The Icarus was violently swept up in the current. The navigational thrusters fired continuously, struggling to keep the nose pointed toward the absolute blackness at the center. The ship groaned, a low, oscillating vibration that vibrated through my bones, my teeth, my skull. And then we reached the photon sphere. This is the boundary where gravity is so absolute that light itself is forced into a circular orbit. Photons, traveling at 300,000 kilometers per second, are trapped here, flying in endless, burning rings around the black hole. When we crossed this threshold, the visual distortion became maddening. Space bent like a funhouse mirror. The black void of the hole, which had been a massive sphere in front of me, began to warp and stretch. Because gravity was pulling the light from behind the black hole over the top and bottom of it, the darkness seemed to wrap around me, forming an infinite wall. I looked out the side window. I saw the engines of my own ship. Let me repeat that, so you understand the sheer insanity of this place. I looked out the window to my left, and I saw the back of the Icarus Vanguard. Light from the rear of my vessel was being emitted, pulled by gravity into a perfect, tight circle around the black hole and delivered right back into my own eyes. I was looking at my own past. I was a spectator to my own funeral procession. If I had held out a flashlight and turned it on, the beam would have traveled around the universe's ultimate drain and hit me in the back of the head. Reality was breaking down. Geometry was a lie. "Commander!" Aura's synthetic voice crackled. The quantum communication lines were fraying, the telemetry data corrupting as the gravitational shear scrambled the electron flows in her memory banks. "Event horizon approaching in T-minus 60 seconds. Recommend. The AI was caught in a fatal logic loop. Even a machine capable of 1 trillion calculations per second could not process the paradox of infinite gravity. It was breaking down. "Mute audio, Aura," I said. My voice was eerily calm in the tiny cabin. The frantic, suffocating panic I had felt for the first few weeks of the journey had completely burned away. It was replaced by a cold, crystalline, transcendent focus. The event horizon. The point of no return. People think it's a physical barrier, a wall of fire, a solid surface you crash into. It's not. It is simply a mathematical boundary in space. It is the exact, infinitesimally thin threshold where the escape velocity required to leave the black hole finally exceeds the speed of light. And since nothing in the cosmos can travel faster than light, nothing escapes. Not a radio signal, not a photon, not a thought, not a soul. Once you cross the horizon, you are severed from the universe forever. You exist in a pocket dimension of pure gravity. I braced myself in the command chair. I tightened the harness until it bruised my collarbones. I closed my eyes, expecting a jolt, an impact, a sudden, violent tearing of metal. But there was nothing. No bump, no alarm, no sudden explosion. I opened my eyes. We had crossed. How did I know? Because the universe behind me disappeared. The starlight from the outside was still falling in with me, but as I plunged past the horizon, the geometry of space collapsed inward. All the light from the entire universe, every galaxy, every star, every nebula, was funneled and compressed into a single, agonizingly bright, blue-shifted halo directly above my ship. It was a pinpoint of concentrated eternity. And ahead of me, below me, absolute, terrifying, crushing nothingness. Inside the event horizon, the fundamental laws of physics as you know them shatter into a billion meaningless pieces. Space and time swap roles. Let me explain what that means, because feeling it, experiencing it, is a cosmic horror that the human brain was not evolved to comprehend. In your world on Earth, you can move freely through space. You can walk left, you can walk right, you can jump up, you can step backward, but you are imprisoned by time. You are forced to move in one direction through time, forward, always forward into the future at a steady, unstoppable pace. Inside a black hole, the mathematics flip. Space is no longer something I can move through. The singularity, the infinitely dense core at the very center of the black hole, is no longer a place in space. It is an event in time. It is my inevitable, absolute future. Just as you cannot avoid tomorrow, I cannot avoid the singularity. It doesn't matter which way I point my ship. It doesn't matter how hard I fire the engines. Every direction is inward. All paths lead to the center. Space is falling like a catastrophic waterfall, moving faster than the speed of light, dragging me down, down, down into the crushing dark. To fight it is to fight the passage of time itself. Then the physical effects began. What astrophysicists jokingly call spaghettification. A funny word for the most horrifying death imaginable. It started as a dull, heavy ache in my feet. Because gravity obeys the inverse square law, the closer you get to a massive object, the exponentially stronger the pull becomes. On Earth, the gravity pulling on your feet is technically slightly stronger than the gravity pulling on your head, but the difference is so microscopic you can't feel it. Inside a supermassive black hole, as you approach the singularity, the distance of a few feet makes a catastrophic difference. The gravity pulling on the nose of my ship was suddenly millions of times stronger than the gravity pulling on the tail. The Icarus began to groan. The advanced structural struts, built to withstand the pressure of descending into a gas giant, screamed like tearing paper. The bulkheads began to buckle. The warning lights didn't even have time to blink red before the control panels shattered. And I felt it in my own body. My boots were being pulled down faster than my helmet. Inertial dampeners failing, hull breach imminent, Aura managed to stutter through the static, her voice distorting into a low, demonic electronic growl. I screamed. I couldn't help it. My spine popped, elongating unnaturally. The vertebrae separated, tearing the cartilage. My muscles stretched beyond their limits. My blood rushed to my legs with such incredible, violent force that my vision went entirely, blindly red. The iron in my blood was being magnetized by the sheer gravitational friction. I was being pulled like hot taffy. The ship was stretching into a cylinder. My body was being drawn out into a microscopic thread of subatomic particles. But it didn't kill me instantly. That is the cruelest joke of the abyss. Because time was warping so violently, my perception of reality stretched to infinity. A single millisecond of biological pain stretched out into a subjective eternity. I was trapped inside a localized pocket of infinite suffering. I felt every cell in my body tear apart. One by one, I felt the bonds between my atoms snapping, releasing microscopic bursts of energy. And then, the strangest thing happened. The pain stopped. My physical body was gone. The Icarus was atomized, crushed into a stream of quarks and gluons. The matter that made up my flesh, my bones, my memories, the ship's computer, all of it was ripped apart, stripped of its structure and fed into the gravity well. Oh, but I was still here. My consciousness inexplicably tied to the quantum entanglement array that was furiously beaming this data through microscopic wormholes back to Earth, lingered. I had become unmoored from biology, unmoored from matter. I am approaching the singularity. It is not a black dot. It is not an empty, devouring void. It is beautiful. As I fall into the infinite density of the core, time stops completely. The universe outside has died. I know this with absolute certainty. Trillions of years have passed out there in the span of my final breath. The stars have all burned out. The galaxies have drifted apart and dissolved into darkness. Proton decay has left the cosmos as a cold, empty graveyard, a sea of dead radiation. But here at the absolute bottom of the gravity well, nothing is lost. All the light, all the matter, all the information that this black hole ever swallowed over billions of years is compressed into a single, glittering point. The holographic principle is true. I can see it. The surface of the singularity is a two-dimensional sphere, encoded with the three-dimensional information of everything that ever fell inside. I can see it all. I can see the dust of exploded stars. I can see the swallowed light of alien suns that died before Earth was even formed. I can see the shattered timelines of entire civilizations folded up like infinite origami. I see past, present, and future existing simultaneously in a crystalline lattice of gravity and quantum mechanics. Gravity and quantum theory, they are merging. The irreconcilable rules of your universe are breaking down, shaking hands in the dark. I am no longer Elias Vance. I am no longer a commander, a human, a son, a man. I am pure information. I am an equation. I am data woven into the eternal fabric of space-time. If you are receiving this message on Earth, if the scientists at the Vanguard Coalition are truly hearing my voice encoded in the quantum spin of entangled electrons, it is a miracle of physics. It means the entanglement held through the death of time itself. It means my sacrifice wasn't for nothing. I have seen the mechanics of the singularity. The telemetry data embedded in this transmission contains the unified field theory. You have the data you need to master gravity, to build the localized fields, to save our dying, suffocating world. The singularity is touching me now. It doesn't hurt. It feels like waking up from a very long, very confusing dream. Space is shrinking to a microscopic point. Time is expanding into infinity. The concepts of here and there no longer exist. Before and after are the exact same thing. I am simultaneously at the end of the universe and the blinding, fiery beginning of the next.